Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a new dev series. My name is Saragan, and in this series, we are going to be looking at replicating the functionality and the style of Breathedge. I'm not going to say it's going to be a clone because, copyrights and everything else. I have no money. They can't really take that from me. So I'm just going to do in the style of. I did do bunny ears right there, but, I'm not on camera, so you can't really see that. So we're going to tell you anyway. So this is going to be broken up into multiple videos. And the first one is going to be setting up the player controller pawn, grav zones, that kind of thing, just as a basics. And then we'll get onto the slightly more advanced things like oxygen, food and drink, inventory items, resources, crafting, storage, building, saving and loading, the transport. So yeah, we've got quite a lot to get through. But first, we may as well start with the easy things. I am going to make this a C++ project. I will try and explain what I am doing in C++ for those who are not as familiar. And I will do some things in Blueprints and then probably migrate them to C++ afterwards if I feel that they need to. But I want to do it as C++ because not enough developers on YouTube are doing the C++ versions. So it's something that I endeavor to at least include. And what are we going to call this? Well, obviously the original game is Breathedge. So I am going to call this Gasping Verge. There we are. Gasping Verge. Create that. Let's see. Okay, so for those who are already familiar with my channel, you will know that I did do a gravity zone. I did do a gravity zone tutorial for those who were interested. Some of this is going to be pretty much the same, but obviously I did that in Blueprints. This time I'm going to do it in C++. So with that, let's go and we need to create a interface. Now I'm going to create this interface in C++ because we didn't do that last time, and it's something that quite a few people have spoken to me about. Oh, how do you get this working? How do you get that working? So I'm going to change this to change space. Now, for those who are aware, it already adds like a U to the beginning of it, and then an I to the beginning of it. So in theory, I shouldn't need to add anything. It should just do it itself. So I'm going to create that. This needs to reload. Right, so we have our change space. See there we've got U and then we've got our I. So this is minimal API. What we want to add on here is a meta tag cannot implement blueprint interface. Implement interface in Blueprint. The reason for this is I want to use some Blueprint callable functions, and they're a little bit finicky on what you can and you can't add as a Blueprint function. It's really, really weird and really irritating. So we are going to add a U function here, and this is going to be Blueprint callable. If I allowed this to be Blueprint implementable, we wouldn't be able to add this Blueprint callable. So virtual void, and I want to do set space state bool in space equals 0. And that's it for this interface. So basically the gist of what we're going for here is we want an actor that has a box or a bounds that you can walk through and change your state from walking to flying. There is no sort of space movement mode, flying is about as close as you can get. You could probably get away with swimming as well. Swimming is an entire possibility. So if you're doing a Subnautica sort of version of this game, you could do that. So what we need is we need to come back to here, and we need to go to our character because we need to actually implement this interface. So we want to hash include change space marvelous, and this is going to be a public I change space. Now this is going to require our interface function. Look at this mess. Just look at all of this. You know what? I know it's not cool, but I'm just going to get rid of all this nonsense for the time being. Hash pragma region default. Put that at the end. End region default. Right. Now, in theory, that can all go away. Right. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you guys. Pragma region, and we want space state. Cool. And what we need is our the same thing that we had in this one. But obviously we want to actually implement this. And this is going to need to be override because it complains bitterly if you don't have that. And we come down to our character. So I'm trying not to cough at all of you at the moment because I seem to have developed something obscure. So what do we want to do here? We actually want to set a variable of whether we're in space or not, so we can use that variable. We will need to set the capsule's gravity, and unfortunately, because the character component, they've made that private, we can only really do that in blueprints. We could probably do it as a friend class, but I'm going to show you how to do other things in here anyway. And then we need to set the movement mode. So what we need first is a variable, a U property. And this is going to be edit anywhere, blueprint, read, write, category, space. And this is just going to be a simple bool is in space. And by default, we'll set it as false. If you're starting in space, then you could probably set that to true, but either or, it makes no real difference. So that is going to equal our variable that we're passing in. That allows us to control whether we're in space. No, I don't want to save. No, stop doing that, please. Thank you. We need our blueprint implementable function that I was talking about earlier, so we can change the capsule. I'm just going to copy that because I can change that. Blueprint implementable event. And this is just going to be void BP set gravity. And I'll put a bool in space because we want to use the same thing. Why does it keep trying to save? Jeez. So now we want to call that in here and have this as our in space. We can probably use our is in space variable, and then we'll implement this in blueprints in a moment. The other thing that we need to do is we need the game framework for character movement component. So hash include game framework character movement component. There we are. And the reason why we need that is because we're going to need that in this function, which is going to be our U character movement component. I'm just going to call this M is get character movement, because there is a function already for that. And if I remember rightly, this is officially templatable depending on what you've set, because I think you can set character movement to be a subclass. So if m is not equal to a null pointer, because I want to make sure that we don't error, if is in space, else what we want to do is m set movement mode to E movement mode move flying, and then we copy this down here and just change this to walking. Marvelous. Right, so we've got a few things sorted there. We do need stuff that we're looking into the future. We will need to change move. Well, we may change move. No, we won't change move. We'll add another function for like move up and down, because if you're in space, you can move in all axes. And we will also have to override the jump functionality, because most games that have like space, it's usually spacebar to go up and control or C to go down. But obviously jump is bound to spacebar by default when you're walking, and you can do both in Breathedge and in Subnautica and that kind of thing. So we need to override the jump and just basically add are we in space check, don't jump if we are, and then a move up and down function so we can do a add movement input. But that is that for this section. Okay, so we have done the C++ most of it. I'm going to create a new folder in here, and we'll call this as being Verge, because everything else is boilerplate. And what I would like is a new folder, and we're going to call it Zone. And we're going to add a new blueprint actor, and we're just going to call this Gravity Zone. If you want to call it BP underscore Gravity Zone, everyone seems to do this with naming conventions. Really, at the end of the day, I don't care. Usually I'm working on my own in my own projects, and as long as I understand what's going on, it's not really a problem. So we need a collision. Box collision, capsule, sphere, it's entirely up to you. You can probably do one of each. It doesn't really make much difference. I'm just going to call this zone. And I'm going to scroll down all the way to this on begin overlap. Now, in my previous tutorial, I'll just get rid of these, I had the end overlap. So when you entered, it was in. When you exit, it was out. I'm going to change this slightly, and I'm just going to have a variable is in space Boolean here. And we want to add a does object implement interface, and it's going to be our it's not going to be our IF, it's going to be our change space. Plug that in to make sure that whatever actor is overlapping implements this. And then we need to call set space state if it's true, and we can put in this is in space variable, and this is going to be instance editable. And the reason we can do this now is if I drag this in and I scale this up a bit here, this is going to be our floating, so is in space, yes. And the one behind is going to be our walking. So if we're over here, it will start floating us around. If we're over here, it will start us walking around. Nice and simple, nice and easy grav zone. I don't know if Breathedge did do this in exactly this sort of same way, but May as well do the obvious. Other things, what do we need to do? We need our first person player, and there are a few things that we need to do on here. Firstly, 3 of these have gravity turned on. We don't need that. If I search for gravity here, see that one's got gravity, that one's got gravity. We only really care about the capsule because that's the parent one, and if that has gravity, everything underneath it has gravity anyway, so kind of irrelevant. We need to implement a function because we have our interface. I believe, does that now show under interfaces? Change space, there we are. And BP set gravity. We need to grab our capsule component. We need to invert this to a not Boolean. Put that under there, and we need to set enable gravity. So if we're in space, we want gravity off. If we're not in space, we want gravity on. So this is how that works. Let me know down in the comments if you've tried friend classes or modifying capsule components and things. You could remove it and then create your own that's public and then change the root, but it just seems so much effort for the sake of just calling something in blueprints. That I believe, let's see how far. Oh, yep, that's the other thing I was going to do. This zone hidden in game, let's turn that off so we can actually see where we're walking, otherwise this could be very short. We're now in floaty mode, and over here we're now in walking mode with our jump. As you can see in here, jump doesn't work because we have no up and down added. So why don't we try that? What's the error? Rifle blueprints. Oh, there's a rifle blueprint error. Well, I'm not going to be using that, so that's fine. We need inputs. So we need another input. And this is, we'll keep it the same as move, and IA move up. Now I'm going to change this just to a vector 3 in case I want to use something later. It could just be a float, that's fine, but I'm a bit more picky. I have done it where you can put it onto the move. I can show you how that's done because you'll still need to do it the same way for this. So this is going to be IA move up, and we need space, and I'll put it on control. Feel free to change that, but we'll do that. So space, if we add one, this is going to be a swizzle input value, and same with this one. But if you expand this, you see we got Y, X, Z. I'm going to change this to Z, Y, X because then that will be Z first. And the negate, we do need a negate, and that is going to be on control. Cool. So we have that. We need to come back into our C++ here. Come to our thing, and we have a move function. So let's change that, and we'll have a move up function. And the same here, move, we're going to have a move up. Okay, so let's copy that to here. Add our class name to the beginning. And if we look here, we have this slot. So I'm just going to copy this slot for the moment, just because it means it'll be easier. I can take off that, which is now a vector 3. We can get rid of this one. We're going to change that to Z. And then instead of that, we want the up vector. And that should resolve being able to go up and down. Now, the issues we have is the jump action, because we'll be jumping, it will set the jump thing and it will do the animations of jumping. So we don't really want that. What we want is only to do that if we're not in space. Easiest way to grab these things is to come over here, go to no definition. There we are. Search for jump. There we are. So we have stop jumping and jump. We go to definition, we've got these. So why don't we just copy these in here first? And we want to come back and I want this one. I'm just going to stick these above the jump action for the moment. And override. So in here, we'll leave those the same. If you want to be more specific, you can basically call parent, I think. Is it parent? Do they have parent or is it super? Super jump. And then you can get rid of that. And then we can do the same down here for super stop jumping. And that just means if they ever change it in the parent class, you're sorted. And we just need an if not is in space. And wrap around that. And same with this one down the bottom. And then that just means it stops the animations for the jump. I mean, you may want the animations for jump that when you're going up, your character is trying to jump upwards. You could probably add something coming out of his backside, a little puff of air or something like that. I don't know. But that should be enough. The player input here, it's tied to the character one. We want to change this to our gasping verge character. And hopefully that should be all that's needed for compilation. There we are. If you do have any errors, do go back and check, because sometimes these things happen. The only other thing we need to do is in this BP first person character. If we search for actions, we now have our move up action. This needs to be tied to our IA move up input, which is fine. That is good. Now, in theory, we're in space and nothing is happening. Why is nothing happening? Let's have a look. So the only thing I can think of is probably to do with the input here. We did not include our call to our new move up function. Now, really, I think we probably only want it on a triggered. So let's see, move up action and our move up. Oh, it's capital P. Don't know why I added a capital P, but that should resolve that. So this is a live code update. What's the gravity zone? And of course, because we changed something, it sometimes doesn't like it. So let's just rebuild. Reopen your project once you've done the build, and then hopefully that node will be restored. If it isn't restored, well, just drop it and recreate it. That's the nature of the C++ stuff, is that you will find more often than not, like here, there we go, it's now back to normal, is that when it reloads the live coding, sometimes things drop out. But we have that now. We have our jump, and we now have our spacebar and control, spacebar, control, up and down, which is all lovely. And then obviously if we come back down, we're back down to here, and then we can just jump as normal and just run around. And then out into space. Right. Cool. Well, that, I think, is going to be it for this video. There's a fair bit to cover in this one. I think in the next one, we're going to have a look at food and water and oxygen depletion. And then we'll see what else we have time for in that one. But that is going to be it for this first episode. I hope this is going to be a helpful series to some people and fun to others. And I will see you in the next one. Bye for now. Bye-bye.